Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Olivieri, and today I want to talk about relationships. Now, we all know that relationships are important, but I actually like to think of relationships as assets for our businesses and for our organizations. You can have relationships with donors, with staff members, with volunteers, relationships with your board members, and the quality of that relationship will greatly affect the value that it brings. What does this value look like? It can be monetary value, right? People with great relationships can turn into them giving you money. It can also be time value. They may give you their time and their expertise. They might also share the value of their other relationships with you, introducing you to other people who can bring you value. Some relationships are more like a donor relationship, is all about how that donor feels that they can say, I helped make that happen for this nonprofit. I helped get that result with my money, but I was part of that, right? And so for the donor relationship, the more they feel like when they say, I helped make that happen, that their contribution was really significant, or that what they helped make happen was really important to them, the more they are going to give. That's where the value lies for them. And of course, where the value lies for you is being able to turn their money into the result. And so the more efficient use that you can make of money, the more their money becomes valuable to you. But that's not the only type of relationships we're dealing with in nonprofits, especially, and in all businesses. When we have great relationships with our staff members, we get a lot of value from that too. They become more dedicated to the work they're doing when the relationship is good. They also become more likely to tell you what's not working, right? When we talk about embracing vulnerability, and the work of Brene Brown, who's the expert on embracing vulnerability, that's all about having great relationships that make it safe for people to be vulnerable. And vulnerable is great for the people, but it's also really good for business because it helps us identify key challenges before they come up and whack us in the face, right? So that relationship with our staff is really important. If we sometimes need our staff to work overtime or put in extra effort, we're not going to get that if we don't have great relationships. Relationships might be with stakeholders who have the keys to things that we want. Politicians, folks who have access to funding sources, other relationships, right? And so we need to be mindful of all these types of relationships. But I also want you to think of relationships as not just having value or being an asset, but if you're in the nonprofit space, you have certainly thought about the difference between a restricted asset or a restricted donation and an unrestricted donation or an unrestricted asset. So a restricted donation is one that you can only use on a specific thing. An unrestricted donation is one that you can use however you see fit in your nonprofit. A restricted asset or versus an unrestricted asset, or in the financial world, we often say a liquid asset versus an illiquid asset. So we have an asset that can easily be turned into cash, or that's easily transferable into something else, right? If I want to turn my stock into cash and then turn my cash into a cow, I can do that. It's pretty easy. That's unrestricted or liquid. And we have our restricted or illiquid assets, which are things that are hard to turn into money or harder to turn into money. So I might have an estate. Maybe I have a historical castle, right? It's pretty hard to sell a historical castle. It's hard to turn it into cash. It's hard to make it transferable. I can't just turn that into a boat very easily because it's hard to sell. And this concept exists in relationships too. So if the relationship is specifically with me, Sarah, then that is a more restricted relationship. It's hard. I can try, if I want to, I can pass the relationship to you. I can pass that trust to you. But if I don't want to, right, it's within my control, that relationship may stay with me. If I move from one company to another, the relationship is going to follow me. It's restricted or to me as an individual. But we can also have relationships that are with our organization. And this is a really good move for executive directors and development directors to be thinking about. How can I make sure that initially, right, people develop relationships with people. So initially I may start the relationship with me, but how can I quickly pass on the relationship so that it's with the whole organization and not any one person, which is much more valuable, because it means as people change in your organization, the relationship stays with the organization. It doesn't leave with the people. So this is really interesting. And you can think about doing this by making sure that there isn't just one spokesperson for your organization, but that all your staff are spokespeople for the organization, that your clients are spokespeople for the organization, that people hear stories coming out of your organization from many different voices, that when I interact with you, that I use language that talks about we and my team and everyone here at my organization, and that you're not always interacting with me. I can train you that you're going to interact with my team of people, and it's not always going to be me. I remember having this experience when I was pregnant with my son and went to the OBGYN office, and they were very clear to say that, well, you may have thought you were going to pick this main doctor to be your doctor. Here at this OBGYN, we work as a group. And they made sure that all throughout those many appointments you have when you're pregnant, that you saw, they actually put you on an intentional rotating schedule so that you formed a relationship with every doctor in the practice, because when it came time to deliver, they couldn't guarantee that any one doctor would be on duty. And so they intentionally distributed the relationship so that my relationship was with the practice and not with one specific doctor, which strengthened my relationship and probably ultimately led to better care for the mothers overall. So those are my tips for today. Strengthen your relationships, build them, but try to make sure that you're building unrestricted relationships and maximizing that transferable relationship opportunity if you are the leader of a nonprofit organization. These are the kinds of things that we discuss, along with nitty-gritty tactical details, in the Thrive program, my executive director coaching program for nonprofit CEOs. And if you'd like to be in the room having your issues talked about most specifically and timely for you, I encourage you to apply to the Thrive program. There's no fee to apply and find out if you're a good fit. Go to pivotground.com/application. Or if you just want tips and stuff in your email box and you don't want to have to do anything complicated, go to pivotground.com/sign up. The link should be in the description somewhere or in the comments. And I will send you weekly tips, announcements about upcoming trainings, and kinds of things that are on nonprofit leaders' minds, like usually boards, money, adding staff, dealing with people issues, growing the organization, going through the various life cycles, all that good stuff we cover here at PivotGround, as well as with me,